on the budget. Radhika Rao, Senior Economist, Executive Director at DBS Bank, with us this morning. Very good morning. And thank you so much for joining in, Radhika. The conversation here is that will the finance minister be able to stick to the fiscal deficit red lines, considering the largesse, quote unquote, coming in from the GST reforms that have been put in place, and of course the tax cuts from last year? Is there room to really spend, even though that's the need of the hour?
Hi, morning, Tamanna. I think it is, so they have a couple of, the government, I think, has a couple of agendas in mind. And this particular deficit that we're going to see, or the fiscal 27 budget, there's going to be a bit of a shift in terms of what is going to get targeted, right? We've typically had 1 point target for fiscal deficit. I think we are now venturing into an area where you're going to see debt to GDP become a more important key anchor. And then deficit, in a way, becomes an intermediate target. So that is one part of the thing. The other part, coming to your question, certainly I think 4.4% for fiscal 26, given a kind of a shift in the playbook that the government has adopted, which is that from being purely supply driven, they have become more demand oriented as well, putting more cash in the hands of people through direct, indirect tax changes. Where you have seen that impact the most is that gross tax revenue growth has been moderating in the past, I would say 3-4 years. And more so, the year that we have just ending and fiscal 27, we're going to see similar trends as well. So then where does the countervailing effect come from? It comes from non-tax revenues, essentially RBI dividends, which has become a common fixture for most of the years. And then you've got PSU dividends, and then, of course, expenditure rationalization. So I think the mix is going to look like this: a bit of non-tax revenue support, bit of expenditure trimming, and that's going to be behind the 4.4% of GDP for fiscal 26. But I think we will equally be very interested in seeing how the framework for fiscal 27 is set up. Are there point targets? Is it left in a range? And if there is a debt to GDP target, we need a whole lot of other assumptions that go along with it. Where are those set? I think these are some of the things that market participants would tend to focus on a fair amount.
Radhika, very well put, and good morning to you, Alex here. I'm just wondering, and certain other people have also, in the run-up to budget, voiced this, right? The need to create jobs and need for the government to step in and perhaps focus more on infrastructure creation, because that's the one lever that they can utilize to spur income levels. Do you anticipate that they will be able to do that, or do you think that they will stick to the broad target that they have had as a percentage of GDP in the run-up to today?
I do think there would be, what we'll call reform with guardrails, to mean that there is a very clear recognition, jobs-focused growth is required. And I think the economic survey also put it very, very clearly, which said that, yes, I think a services-based policy is required, as in service sector expansion. But I think without manufacturing, there is no way that the amount of labor that adds on every year can be absorbed. So I think from that point of view, to answer your question, I think the government will tend to play a bit of a long game, to mean that there will be, again, the set of measures we're going to see where, looking at bringing down regulatory friction, trying to make sure that manufacturing as a percent of GDP goes up. Right now, it's been flatlining for the past few years. To take that up materially, which will then in turn involve doing more for PLI, doing more for MSMEs, for instance. So I think as a cause and effect, right? So I think the push would be to hasten the manufacturing push, which in turn will be able to absorb labor. And then you could have the smaller ones, which they already announced last year, which is the internship programs, the vocational training, the skill training. I think all of this go hand in hand. This is how we expect the mix to be towards addressing this bottom-up kind of an approach. Gyan segment, which is usually one of the front and center of the budgetary announcements. Along with that, I would say jobs and employment and MSMEs will be the other sectors. Again, all of this refer to a bottom-up approach. Very important when we are talking about a jobs-oriented growth push.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for waiting patiently. We were just finishing off some of the morning things, but lovely talking to you today and getting some insights into what you expect and what people expect as well. Really appreciate your time.